He stood alone at the top of the glass tower, watching his empire bleed across the screens. Every number collapsing, every deal dying in real time. The city below pulsed with light and indifference. He thought he'd built something untouchable. But tonight, the system he'd stolen was finally remembering its true creator. 12 hours earlier, James Hargrave had everything. An $18 billion merger. A legacy cemented in steel and ambition. The kind of power that makes men forget where it came from. But empires don't forget. They remember every hand that built them, every sleepless night, every invisible architect who made the impossible real. My name is Elena Ashford, and this is the story of how I took back what was always mine. It started 8 years ago. I was 27, brilliant, and naive enough to believe that love and loyalty were currencies that mattered in his world. I met James at a venture capital dinner. He had charisma, vision, a hunger that matched mine. Within 6 months, we'd launched Hargrave Dynamics. Within a year, we'd secured $40 million in funding. But here's what the Forbes articles never mentioned. Every pitch deck, I wrote it. Every investor relationship, I built it. Every algorithm that made his platform revolutionary, I designed it at 3 a.m. while he slept. I was the foundation. He was the facade. And for 3 years, I convinced myself that was enough. Until the night of the gala. The Metropolitan Museum. 2,000 guests. Crystal chandeliers and champagne that cost more than most people's mortgages. I wore emerald silk. I just closed the Singapore expansion, 18 months of work. Flawless execution. I was standing near the bar when I heard him laughing with the board, talking about his vision, his strategy, his empire. Not once did my name leave his lips. Not once did he even glance in my direction. That's when I saw her. Cassandra Monroe. 24. Ambitious, hanging on his every word. His hand on the small of her back. The same way he used to touch me. I walked over, calm, composed. I said his name. He turned, smiled like I was a stranger interrupting something important. Elena, enjoying the party? His voice was pleasant, dismissive, like I was a guest, not the architect of everything he was celebrating. I should have said something. Screamed. Demanded recognition. Instead, I just looked at him. Really looked at him. And I understood. I wasn't his partner. I was his secret. The invisible hand he could never admit existed, because admitting I built his empire meant admitting he hadn't. I left that night. No scene. No drama. I just walked out into the Manhattan rain and disappeared. For 2 years, I became a ghost. I changed my name to Vera Castellano. Cut my hair. Moved to a studio in Queens. Started consulting under an alias for tech startups that needed what I'd always been, the invisible genius. But I never stopped watching. I tracked every move James made, every acquisition, every mistake. And there were mistakes. Lots of them. Without me, his instincts were just expensive guesses. His platform started glitching. His international deals stalled. His investors started asking uncomfortable questions. That's when I got the call. Not from James. From his board. They were desperate. The company was hemorrhaging value. The $18 billion merger with Quantum Industries was 48 hours away. And the due diligence was a disaster. They needed someone who understood the system from the inside. Someone brilliant enough to save it. Someone invisible enough that James would never know. They needed me. I accepted. Not as Elena Ashford, as Vera Castellano, independent systems analyst, 24-hour contract, anonymous, untouchable. I walked into that building at midnight. The security guard barely looked up. I rode the elevator to the 40th floor, watching the city lights blur into streaks of gold. The server room was exactly as I remembered, cold, humming with the sound of 1,000 processors. I logged into the system with credentials they'd given me. But I didn't need their credentials. I'd built this system. Every line of code. Every failsafe. Every backdoor I'd hidden in case I ever needed to prove what I'd created. The merger documents were a mess. Projections based on algorithms that had degraded without proper maintenance. Risk assessments that ignored fundamental flaws. James had been coasting on my old work for 2 years, and now it was all falling apart. I started fixing it. Rewriting code. Recalibrating projections. Rebuilding what he'd let crumble. It took me 6 hours. 6 hours to save what had taken me 3 years to build. At dawn, I sent the corrected files to the board. Anonymous, professional, perfect. I should have left then. But I didn't. I walked to his office, stood outside the glass door, watched him arrive at 7 a.m, looking exhausted and afraid. He didn't see me. He never saw me. I was just another consultant in a gray suit, carrying a tablet, invisible in the machinery of his empire. But your empire still remembers who built it. I whispered it to the glass. Then I turned and walked away. The merger was approved. $18 billion, the biggest deal of his career. The press called him a visionary. His photo was on every business magazine. And somewhere in Queens, I watched the news and smiled. But Vera Elena wasn't done yet. Because 3 days after the merger closed, something interesting happened. Marcus Chen, the new CFO from Quantum Industries, started asking questions. He noticed irregularities in the financial reports, discrepancies between the projections James had presented and the actual system performance. Small things. Things only someone looking very closely would see. Marcus was smart, ambitious, and he smelled blood in the water. I was in a coffee shop when I saw the Bloomberg alert. Quantum Industries launches internal audit of Hargrave Dynamics acquisition. My hands tightened around my cup. This wasn't part of the plan. Marcus wasn't supposed to dig this deep. If he found the right threads, he wouldn't just unravel James. He'd unravel everything I'd built. I made a decision. I sent Marcus an encrypted email. One line. If you want the truth about Hargrave Dynamics, meet me at Pier 17 at midnight. He came alone. I watched him from the shadows, standing under the Brooklyn Bridge, checking his phone every 30 seconds. I stepped into the light. He looked at me. Gray suit, dark hair, unfamiliar face. Who are you? Someone who knows what you're looking for, and what you'll find if you keep digging. He studied me. Careful, calculating. You're the analyst, the one who fixed the merger. I nodded. And I'm the one who built the system James Hargrave has been taking credit for since 2017. His eyes widened. Prove it. I handed him a tablet. On it, every line of original code. Every patent filed under James's name with my digital fingerprints embedded in the metadata. Every email. Every document. Every piece of evidence that I was the architect. Marcus scrolled through it. Silent. Absorbing. When he looked up, his expression had changed. This is corporate fraud on a massive scale. I know. But here's the thing, Marcus. You can use this to destroy James. Or you can use it to destroy me. Because if you expose this publicly, you expose that the entire system your company just paid $18 billion for was built by someone who doesn't officially exist. He was quiet for a long time. The water lapped against the pier. The bridge lights cast shadows across his face. But the real danger hadn't even appeared yet, because Marcus didn't want justice. He wanted leverage. He saw an opportunity, a chance to control both companies by controlling the secret. He smiled. Cold. Predatory. I think we can help each other, Vera. Or should I call you Elena? My blood went cold. How did you know? I'm very good at my job. And you left more traces than you think. He stepped closer. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me full access to every system you built, every back door, every failsafe. And in return, I'll make sure your little secret stays buried. And if I refuse, then I'll expose you. Elena Ashford, the ghost who committed identity fraud, corporate espionage, and system manipulation. You'll lose everything. Again, sometimes revenge isn't anger. It's clarity. And in that moment, I saw everything with perfect clarity. I smiled. All right, Marcus. You win. Meet me at the office tomorrow at midnight. I'll give you everything. He left confident, victorious. He thought he'd cornered me. But Marcus made the same mistake James did. He underestimated the woman who built the system. The next night, I arrived at Hargrave Dynamics at 11:30. I used my old credentials, the ones I'd never deleted, hidden in the system's deepest layers. I went to the server room, logged in, and I activated something I'd built years ago. A protocol I called Architect's Return. It was elegant, beautiful. A piece of code that would trace every modification, every access point, every fingerprint left on my system over the past 8 years. And it would compile it all into an irrefutable record. Not just of what James had stolen, but of what Marcus was trying to steal right now. Marcus arrived at midnight. Confident, smiling, ready to take control. He didn't notice the cameras recording, didn't notice the system logging every word. "So, Vera? Ready to hand over your life's work?" I turned to face him. "Actually, Marcus, I have a better idea." I pressed a button on my tablet. Every screen in the building lit up. Security feeds, system logs, financial records, and a recording of our conversation at Pier 17. His face went white. "What did you do?" I gave him the truth. What I always give. I showed him that you can't steal what was never yours to take. The doors opened. Building security. Behind them, members of the board. And behind them, federal investigators who'd been alerted to potential corporate espionage and extortion. Marcus tried to run. He didn't get far. But I wasn't finished. Because the system was still compiling. And it wasn't just Marcus's crimes appearing on those screens. It was everything. Every email James had sent taking credit for my work. Every patent filed with my code and his name. Every lie told to investors, to the press, to the world. The board members stood in silence, watching 8 years of fraud unfold in real time. And then I did something I'd been waiting 8 years to do. I walked into James Hargrave's office. He was standing at his desk, staring at his computer screen with the expression of a man watching his life collapse. He looked up when I entered. He didn't recognize me at first. Then something shifted in his eyes. Confusion. Recognition. Horror. "Elena?" I smiled. "Hello, James." His mouth opened. Closed. No words came out. Just a strangled sound. Like a man drowning on dry land. "You thought you could erase me, replace me, build a legacy on my foundation and pretend I never existed." I walked to his desk. Looked at the same screens he was staring at. Every crime. Every theft. Every moment of betrayal documented in perfect clarity. "You thought you could steal what he stole from me, Marcus. But here's the truth. Here's the truth the whole world is about to learn." I leaned forward, my voice quiet, calm, absolute. "You can't steal something that was never yours. You can only borrow it, until the real owner comes back." James sank into his chair. He looked smaller suddenly, diminished. Everything he'd built, everything I'd built, crumbling around him. The board filed in behind me. The lead director spoke first. "Ms. Ashford, we owe you an apology, and an explanation, and perhaps a conversation about the future of this company." I turned to face them. "The future of this company was always mine. You just forgot to read the original incorporation papers." I pulled up a document on the main screen. Articles of Incorporation from 2017. Hargrave Dynamics, LLC. Co-founders, James Hargrave and Elena Ashford. Equal shares, equal control. Buried under 8 years of paperwork and fraud, but never actually dissolved. James had stolen my credit, my recognition, my identity. But he'd never managed to steal my actual legal stake in the company, because I'd hidden it, protected it, waited for the moment I'd need it. And tonight, with Marcus's attempted extortion and James's fraud exposed, the board had no choice. They voted unanimously. James Hargrave was removed as CEO, effective immediately, and Elena Ashford was reinstated, not as a consultant, not as an analyst, as what I'd always been, the architect, the foundation, the mind behind everything they'd built fortunes on. 3 months later, I stood in the same office. But everything had changed. The company was renamed, Ashford Dynamics. The systems were upgraded, the culture transformed. The people who'd been invisible, the engineers, the analysts, the quiet geniuses working in the shadows, finally had names. Recognition. Value. James was gone, facing multiple lawsuits, federal charges, and the kind of public disgrace he'd always feared more than anything. Marcus was gone too, his career destroyed, his ambition turned to ash. And I was here, not hiding, not invisible. Finally, after 8 years standing in the light, they asked me sometimes if it was worth it. The years of silence, The patience, the careful planning, the loneliness of being erased. And I tell them the truth. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about restoration. It's about taking back what was stolen, not with anger, but with proof. Because empires remember, systems remember, and the invisible hands that build them, they never really disappear. They just wait, in the code, in the shadows, in the foundation that everything else stands on, waiting for the moment when the world finally looks down and asks, who actually built this? And then they rise, not in rage, in clarity. He betrayed the woman who built his empire. He thought he could erase her, replace her, rewrite history. But she came back owning everything, because she always had. He just forgot to look at the foundation. Sometimes the greatest power isn't the loudest voice. It's the quietest hand, the one that builds in darkness, the one that knows every secret, every weakness, every truth. And when that hand decides to reach up and reclaim what's hers, nothing, not betrayal, not time, not even an empire built on lies can stop it. Type 100 in the comments and tell me your country. Share this story with someone who still believes in second chances. Someone who knows that being invisible doesn't mean being powerless. Sometimes it just means you're the foundation. And foundations? They last forever.